Day. Welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2573. Today our question for finding out more about our ancestors is, where was your family when they returned home after many years away? Whew, that's a good one. And I got a good story for that too. There is something powerful about returning to a place you once called home after being away for many years. Perhaps someone in your family left their hometown to find work, attended school, joined the military, got married, traveled, or started a new life somewhere else. They may have moved across the country or halfway around the world, fully expecting their new home to be permanent. Then years or even decades later, something brought them back. What was it like to return? The streets may have looked familiar, but different. Old shops had disappeared, new buildings stood where familiar landmarks once had been. Trees had grown taller, neighbours may have moved. The house they remembered might have been renovated, demolished, or even occupied by another family. Yet somewhere among all of those changes were little pieces of the place they remembered. Sometimes it is the smallest things that bring memories rushing back. A familiar view from the top of a hill. The smell of the ocean. Oh, I love the smell of the ocean. A particular road, the school gates, a favorite bakery, or even a bakery item, the sounds of birds they haven't heard for years. Oh, definitely that one. Suddenly they weren't simply visiting a place, they were reconnecting with another chapter of their life. Returning home can also mean reconnecting with people. Yes, perhaps parents and grandparents are still there waiting. Brothers and sisters had families of their own. Childhood friends were now older, but the conversation somehow picked up where it had left off. There may have been wonderful reunions with people who hadn't been together for decades. For some people, returning home was only a visit. For others, it became permanent. After years of living somewhere else, they decided it was time to come back to their roots. Yep, totally and utterly. That decision may have meant starting over again, finding a new home, reconnecting with family, rebuilding friendships, and discovering how much both they and the places they remembered had changed. For family historians, these homecoming stories are worth preserving because official records may show us when someone left and when they returned, but they really tell us why. What pulled them back? Was it family, opportunity, retirement, nostalgia, unfinished business, or simply the feeling that it was finally time to go home? Now, I don't know about my ancestors, if they ever got back to England to visit family there, or if family from England came out to visit them. Don't know. I don't know if some of them went over to Australia. I know family members that have stayed in Australia, or ancestors that stayed in Australia. And I do know that there were family members from here who went over there to visit family in Australia and then came back again. My second great grandmother went to visit her son, who is my half great grand uncle, when he was in prison, and she came home and died a few days later. For myself, I left New Zealand in 1997, in February 1997, and returned home permanently on November the 8th, 2026. Almost 30 years of living in the States. Did I think I'd ever make it back to New Zealand? There were times I doubted I'd ever get home again. And knowing that my parents are both in their 80s, and I'm coming up on 60 this year, that it was time to come home and spend more time with my family. I'd been away from them for 30 years. I'd done little visits here and there, not as much as I would have liked to have come home. With Brad's cancer and everything else, that prevented a lot of travel at times. And it was just time to come home and reconnect with my parents and spend some time with them, because I didn't know if they were ever going to be able to visit me in the States or not again. And I also wanted to reconnect with my family, my brothers, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. And since coming home in November, it has been I will tell you, Zeffie passed on. This is going to get really emotional. I had already decided I was going to come home. Then Zeffie got and made the announcement like September of 2024 that I was going to come home. I allowed myself a year. And somebody said, why a year? And my business coach said to me, why a year? Why not go sooner? And I said, because it's just things that I need to get done, and it's going to take me about a year to get them done. And he's like, okay. He says, why don't we try and speed that stuff up? And I said, okay. And so we were looking at May, and then it got moved. And then Zeffie got sick in December, and then it was questionable as whether or not she could actually travel. And her travel schedule would be, I would drop her off at the place in LA at the pet transportation place, and it is a very well-known company that works with Air New Zealand, and works closely with Air New Zealand to get pets down to New Zealand. And asking them questions like, how long is she going to be in a crate? From when you put her in a crate to when she gets to New Zealand and gets out of the crate, how long is that time going to be? And it was going to be like 22 hours. And I was like, okay, yep. As if you could handle that. She's not going to like it because she's going to hold her bladder until she get out of her crate, because she did not like to pee in her own space ever. And she will hold. She will hold. She held for 48 hours one time when she was placed in a kennel. An incident had happened at the dog sitter's place. They blamed Zeffie for it, but Zeffie had no signs of actually being involved in it. Nobody saw what happened. But when I saw Zeffie 48 hours later, there was no sign that she had been involved in this trauma that had happened. But she had never been in a kennel before. The kennel people did not know that she has to be walked in order to pee and poop, because she will not do it in her own space. And when she came out to get me, and I had to check her over and put her harness on, she was like running to the door, running back to me, running to the door, running back to me. And I finally had to hold her in place to try and get her harness on. Got her harness on, and I picked up her bag, and she almost took my arm out of its socket trying to get out of the place. That's how desperately she wanted to get out. I later found out she had been cooped up in that kennel for 48 hours, never had been walked during that time. And I got her out of the place, and we're in an industrial park, so there's a lot of buildings and stuff, and we're on an end. She gets out the door, she goes to the right, and she goes down 3 doors before she just stopped on the grass and peed for the longest time. And that indicated to me that she hadn't been walked, and she had held it the whole time she'd been in the kennel. So that was traumatizing to me and to her. And it was a week later that she started having seizures. And it wasn't until January we found out why. And it's because her blood glucose levels were dropping. So then we had to get her healthy to travel. And it's sort of like, okay, if she's going to be traveling and she's on medication, well, what's going to happen with that? When are they going to have her dose there? How's she going to get her dose in New Zealand? And so there's lots of questions going backwards and forwards about that. She was officially on the no-fly list by her vet, and her vet happened to be somebody who worked for the FDA, was FDA certified for whether animals could travel or not. And so we worked closely with him to try and get her in the best health. Then, so we keep moving the move out date further and further out. And I didn't think I was going to get home. I did not want to rehome Zeffie. I did not want to put her down. My prayer is that if she has to come to New Zealand, then let's get her well quickly. If she is not going to come to New Zealand, then please take her, but with no pain. And that happened on the 27th of July. 9.5 hours of seizures before she finally went across the bridge. And she took herself over that bridge, and I was there holding her with my hand on her chest as she took her last breath. And her heart stopped. That was the 27th of July last year. Then came the overwhelm, the anxiety, the stress, all the stuff that she had kept from me, that she had protected me against, suddenly came flooding in, along with all the grief and everything else. And I honestly thought I was not going to get on a plane to come home. And we even pushed the date out to November, flying from the US November 6th, arriving in New Zealand November 8th, because you cross the international date line. But I was under this pressure to get the house emptied and packed and sorted and organized. And I was running around like a lunatic, trying to get this stuff done like a chicken without my head on. Because I would start one thing and then something else would pop into my head. And so I'd go and do that. And then something else would pop into my head and go do that. Some of you know what I'm talking about. The shiny object syndrome, getting around, getting things done. Nobody was wanting to buy anything. I had all of this. I had a household of furniture to get rid of. The only thing I was taking was my bed and my recliner, because the recliner was Zeffie's recliner. Well, it was actually mine to start with. She took it over. And my bed, because my bed was less than 2 years old, and I was not giving up my bed. It's a very comfortable bed. It turns out it is way bigger. It is bigger than any beds that they have here in New Zealand. So I have to order my sheets from the US. If I need sheets, I have to order them from the US and get them sent down. And because they don't have those size sheets here in New Zealand. My bed's too big. Even New Zealand's Cow King is smaller than the US, is smaller than my bed. Yeah. and the king size bed, and the regular king bed is smaller, and I just have a standard US king size bed. So yeah, there was that to deal with. But trying to get rid of other furniture, nobody was interested. Trying to get rid of appliances, had some little nibbles and sold some stuff, but there was a lot of stuff left over when the movers left, and it got to a week before the house had to be emptied, and I had an angel. She was literally an angel. Her name was Charlotte, and she came over to my house because I suddenly said, no, I'm just going to drop the stuff at rock bottom prices. So I had a whole dinner set, which could seat up to 12 people. I had a cutlery set to go with it. What else did I put with that? I think it was just the cutlery set and there might have been some other stuff, but it was $20. She Venmoed me the $20 that day, came over that afternoon, packed it all up, and we're talking as I'm busy getting stuff organized and that sort of thing. And she said to me, I know you don't know me. She says, but I'm a very trustworthy person, and this is what I do. And she told me what she does for work and all of that. And she said, she says, I have tomorrow free. Would you like me to come back and help you get organized and get stuff organized, get it listed and everything else? And I just looked at her and said, I would love it. Something inside me said yes. And I just went, I would absolutely love that. So she came over on Saturday. We worked the entire day and got a whole bunch of stuff done. Then she came back Tuesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon, and we got a whole bunch of other stuff done as well. She was able to take stuff for me because that she was going to put with families that she works with. It was amazing what she could get in that little car of hers. And then there was stuff that I still hadn't sold that was valuable. And so she's selling that for me in the States and sending me the money. And then on Thursday, the day before I had to be out of the house, there's still furniture in the house. And I donated a whole bunch of stuff to other people in other places and had a dog rescue come and take a whole bunch of stuff away. And then on the Thursday, this young couple had been in to take all my boxes away, all the boxes. I had a whole bunch of boxes in the garage, and they came and took all of that stuff away. And then she called me up and says, look, I know, she said, this is our situation. So she explained their family situation to me, and something in my chest just settled to say that that was truthful. And she said, would you be willing to give away your washer dryer? Now, my washer dryer was just over 2 years old. It was brand new when I moved, because I bought it when I moved into the house. And something inside me said, yes, do it. And so I said, yes, that would be fine. And so her and her husband came in with a pickup truck on Thursday night, and we're trying to get the thing disconnected from the tabs, and we can't get it to disconnect. Now, her father lived just around the corner, so her husband went and picked him up and brought him back over. And he's looking around, and he says, when do you have to be out of this place? I said, by tomorrow. And he's sort of like, would you like me? He says, I've got the pickup truck. He says, I can come over here in the morning and take all this furniture away if you want. And da-da-da. I said, absolutely. And so he said, because he said, there's some people in our church that could use this, and this, and da-da-da. And I says, come take it away. And so he turned up on Friday. I was basically at the point of packing my bags to go. He turned up on Friday, and he had a friend who was supposed to come and help him, and his friend didn't turn up. So it was just him, and he was tracking some pretty heavy stuff out. I couldn't even help lift half the stuff. And so he says, just leave it with me. I'll get it done. And he was doing runs to church family members, I think to his place and the church, to drop stuff off there to be delivered later on. He did trips to Goodwill to drop stuff off for donations and that sort of thing. He basically got the house emptied, and I put everything into my car that I was taking with me. Because that whole week I was like, I am never going to get out of this house. It was so overwhelming. I was just at the point of having a breakdown. I was not going to get the stuff out of the house, but God sent me these two angels, and they came in and helped me clear the house out. And I got out of the house. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I went to put the key in the key box because they give me the code for the lockbox. Couldn't get it to open. And so I went to the hotel that night, came back the next day, called up the person at the property management company, because I had their direct cell phone number, and said, hey, look, I can't get into the lockbox to drop the keys off. And she says, well, go inside the house, leave all the keys on the counter there, send me a photo of where they are in the kitchen, and just lock the door and send me the code. And I was like, okay. So I did her instructions. I went to send her the code, but because my lease had expired the day before, I couldn't give her a code. So I told her all of this, and she says, don't worry, we'll figure it out. And then I drove off to California. And that day driving to California, I went to my son's place, even did some repacking at my son's place and going through stuff there. Did another drop off at Goodwill. There was so much stuff went to Goodwill. And then the day before, there was all this stuff going on. Like, I still had the car and I had to sell the car. And CarMax was close to the airport, and they actually paid for like Lyft or Uber to come and take you from there over to the airport or wherever you needed to go. And so I got an online, and they gave me a quote online. I got there, they actually gave me the quote, but everything took longer than it was supposed to. I got to my sister-in-law's place late at night. We finally went out for dinner after I had a shower, got some clean clothes on. We went out for dinner, and we spent a lot of time talking that night. I tell you, I love my sister. I am very blessed with Brad's family and my sister-in-laws that I have there. The brothers are not too bad either. Brad's got three older brothers. Well, had three older brothers. He just has two older brothers that are still alive. But the sister-in-laws have been absolutely amazing, are absolutely awesome. I love them dearly. And one of them is currently storing some stuff, which the movers are ready to go in and pick up. I just need to organize a date, and it'll be done. I totally screwed up everything on that one. I got all the paperwork wrong and got caught up in my calendar and was on the wrong week and everything else. So I totally screwed all that up. But as soon as we get a date, that stuff's coming down. Because I really had a lot of stuff still to go that the movers didn't pack. I didn't think I was going to make it to the airport on time that night because it was taking so long at CarMax. And I went over to the hotel where I was meant to be meeting with people. I'd told people I'm going to be here from this time to this time. So I come over in there, and they wouldn't store my bags because I didn't have a room in the hotel. All this excuse, but then for $10 they stored my bags. And I thought, okay, whatever. Then got on the bus transport to the from the hotel to the airport, and went and got a luggage cart, threw my 4 large suitcases on and my 2 carry-ons on that, and went inside and got checked in. I'd prepaid for the extra bags. And it wasn't until I got on the plane that it hit me that I was really going home. And I remember finally getting to Wellington Airport, because I went through Fiji, because if I went through Fiji, I didn't have to worry about Auckland. I could go straight into Wellington, which was awesome because I didn't have to worry about all the Auckland shenanigans. And you got to go through passport control, pick up your bag, so you go through immigration, passport control, then you go pick up your luggage and go through customs. And then you've got to recheck in your bags, and then you've got to get from the international terminal up to the domestic terminal. Not too bad because they do have shuttles that go like every 15 minutes. And then once you get to the domestic terminal, you basically have to sit in the terminal area until it is time for your flight to be called, or close time to the flight to be called. Then you go through security, and then you've got a small waiting area there until your flight's called. It was just a lot. And I was just like, I don't feel like going through that. So I got a plane where I didn't have to pick up my bags till I got to Wellington, and I didn't have to recheck them. I just walked out, and there were my mum and dad and my brother and my sister-in-law all videotaping it. I came out a lot, and the coming out was very short from the other side to being outside was very short. When they said, I'll just go down that lane there, I went, okay. And the next, these sliding doors open, and there I am, there's a short ramp down, and there's mum and dad and my brother and sister-in-law standing there waiting for me. And that hug from my mum was one of the best hugs ever, because I was finally home. And all that stress, overwhelm, anxiety, depression, everything that had hit me, the grief since Zephy had passed in July through to November, all of that stuff was gone. It was over, it was done with, it was gone, and I was home. And so that homecoming was very, very special. It was a very special homecoming. So, when you've been away for a while and you come home and you're coming home permanently, do I miss my family back in the States? Absolutely. I miss my grandkids. I miss my boys and their wives, and didn't get to see half the people I wanted to see before I left. Didn't get to do half the things I wanted to do before I left, but everything worked out how it was supposed to work out. And it's still a very emotional thing, as you can see, for me to talk about. But here I am. What are we? November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, 9 months later. And I'm still affected by what happened 9 months ago. So coming home has been a big deal. And since then, settled into life here in New Zealand, and I'm glad I live by myself, not at my parents' place, because my work schedule is crazy. There's times I'm getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, just to get to work on time or do the stuff that I need to do, because I still work on US hours. And this Friday I'll be getting up at 1 o'clock to start work at 2 o'clock. That's AM, yes. So I've got those crazy days coming, and I have those crazy days as well. But it has been very interesting coming home, seeing all the changes that are around. The big changes are going to hit me when I go into Wellington. I still haven't been into Wellington Central Business District, because I'm going to go into the train station and I'm going to walk out of the front of the train station, and the view is going to be completely different. The Waterloo Hotel is still going to be there on the corner. I think it's the Backpackers now, but it's still called the Hotel Waterloo. Then next to that used to be a low 2-story building that I used to work in when I was in the Air Force. And I left the Air Force in 1991. And that building was still there when I left for the States, and that was back in 1997. But sometime during the last 30 years, that building got demolished, and they've put up this, not really a high-rise, but they've put up a tall building there with a lot of car parking in there, but there's also some offices in there. And I actually have to go into that building to visit the Inland Revenue Department to find my IRD number, which is like your social security number, because I have it. They say it's invalid. And I'm like, but this is the number that I've had for however many years I've had it. And so they have to go do some of it. And so I have to go in person and help and see if they can find it for me. But with that, your homework for tonight, your assignment for tonight, is find someone in your family who returned home after being away for many years. Where had they been living? How long had they been gone? What brought them back? Who was still there to welcome them? What had changed while they were away? What places did they immediately want to visit? Mine haven't been so much places. It's been more food. I get to have this again. I get to have that again. Fish and chips. Most importantly, ask how it felt to stand once again in a place that had once been such an important part of their life. And sometimes going home isn't about returning to the place you left. It's about rediscovering the people, memories, and the pieces of yourself that remained there. So let us know in the comments below some of the stories that you come up with, and then some of the stories that you discover along the way. And we will catch you back here tomorrow evening. I think pretty sure I'm coming back at the same time. Yeah, tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hey,